What up, y'all? Today's episode is brought to you by RV Fix. Let's walk through a quick scenario. You're on your RV trip that you've been planning for months and bam, something goes wrong. Slide won't move, fridge quits, the power's out. Now, instead of cracking open a cold one, it's fixing time. Total buzzkill, right? That's where RV Fix comes in. Call 1-844-66-RV-FIX and get connected via video call with a master RV technician. No middlemen, no dealership runaround, just real help, fast. And over 40% of these issues are fixed on the first phone call. If it's more serious, we've got you. We'll order parts and get warranty approval within hours, not weeks. Then we can either ship the parts to you and walk you through the fix on a second video call, send a mobile tech from our 2,000 plus tech network, or have you drop it off at the dealership once everything's ready to roll. And even better, you get to keep your rig during this whole process. No more waiting 4 to 6 weeks for basic repairs. With RV Fix, most shop fixes are done in just 3 days. Skip the stress, call RV Fix, and get back to camping, relaxing, and making memories. Use promo code RVVoice at checkout to get a 60% discount and lock in your price for years to come. Learn more at rvfix.com. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Alrighty, welcome to another episode of the RV Voice. Today we're switching it up. When I say switching up, we're not doing the full questions. We're doing something different today. So we're talking to a couple that's been full-timing for 6 years. They're the experts, not me. I don't know everything about RVing. I've only been in for 3 years, and I've sold RVs, and I've never been full-time RVing, let alone much RVing in general. So that being said, we are talking to a couple, like I said, 6-year full-timers, and they did a lot of camping before that as well, and we'll dive into their background to build the credibility. But it's Kelly and Renee with 50 and fifth wheeling, and we're going to talk myself off. Wrong number, wrong button. We're going to talk about saving fuel this RV season and what keeps you rolling without breaking the bank. So Kelly and Renee, thank you so much for being here. Hopefully you guys can give us some great tips today. So how you doing today?
Wonderful. Thank you, first of all, there, JB, for having us on the RV Voice. Quite the honor to have us here. So looking forward to visiting with you. So thanks again.
Absolutely. Thank you. We guys met you guys down in Tampa.
That's right.
Basically everyone down there, I mean, when I met everybody, I was actually super nervous to meet everybody because I've talked to a lot of people in the RV industry, right, beforehand. And then I went down there and I was like meeting these people. Everyone thought I was like 5'5" for some reason. I'm not. Everyone's like, you're a lot taller in person. I'm like, well, you see this much of me. Like, you just assume that I'm short? Oh, how rude. But anyway, we had a great conversation down there. You guys are a lot of fun. I'd love, I wish I could have come out and hung out with you guys. I definitely would have drank a beverage or two with y'all, but maybe next time. That's
right, for sure.
Well, cool. You guys are, you said you're in your semi-stationary spot in Michigan for the moment. You guys do a little bit of full-timing, like semi-stationary. You're full-time in an RV, but you're stationary for 6 months and then you kind of run around for 6 months. So let's kind of talk about your background, where you're from, how RVing started for you guys, how long you've been RVing, not just full-time, and then, just your personal journey into like RVing in general.
All right, you want to start off?
All right. I grew up in Michigan. Kelly grew up in Colorado, and we met through work years ago. And early in our marriage, we bought a pop-up. What was it? Jayco?
Can't remember. I think it was a Jayco.
Yeah. So we bought a pop-up. It had a little toilet in it. And so our kids were toddlers, and we had a group of friends. We'd go at least once a month camping. And after a couple heavy rainstorms and trying to pack that up, and then you go home and you got to reopen it up to let everything dry, we decided to switch to a bumper pole trailer. And it was 2004, I think, Keystone Outback. And so we had that for 10 years and traveled all over the country with friends on camping trips. And then the kids got busy with sports and activities in junior high and high school. So we sold that. And then it was 2018 empty nesters, when you kind of look at each other and go, what do you want to do this weekend?
Sitting on the couch.
And then it's like, well, what did we do before we had kids? So you kind of get back into all those activities, golfing, biking. And we said, let's buy a camper. So we did in about August of 2018. And then that December, Kelly was working for General Motors, one and only job out of college. And so we bought it. And then in December, found out we were getting relocated to Atlanta, Georgia. So we initially just moved the camper out there for him to live in till we found a house. But then I said, let's just live in this. So here we are.
Well, that sounds wonderful. There's a big part of me that wants to do it, but I'm like, be doing it solo. I'm like, man, that'd be rough. Like, I mean, you know, I'm a very social butterfly anyway, but like when I get the chance to be alone, like I almost like lean into it. And I just know I'd struggle with being on the road alone. So I don't think I can do it very well. But glad that you guys were able to do it. So you were down there for about a year? Or no, so it was a 2019, you took it down to Atlanta.
Correct.
And that was January?
That was in January of 2019, and we found this great little park. It was actually Twin Lakes RV Park there in Cumming, Georgia, as Renee mentioned, just to kind of maybe put it there so we could find a house, and then we'd move into the house. And what we found out is we really enjoyed that kind of community, the RV community. There was a lot of full-timers there. And then that's when she kind of threw out the ideas, you know, this was kind of our ultimate goal down the road when we turned 55 is to ultimately go full-timing. And she says, why don't we start doing it now? And at first I was like kicking and screaming. I said, I don't think I could really do it. Basically, because I was always thinking we could use the camper and the RV on the weekends to get away and just kind of avoid the TVs and the phone calls and just relax. But then as I was thinking of that and sitting there at Twin Lakes RV Park, I'm like, wait up, instead of just doing it 2 days a week, we could be doing this 7 days a week, sitting by the lake, sitting by a campfire, enjoying the friends. And I finally said, you know what, go back to Texas and sell everything. And I had a lot of equipment in the garage, you know, automotive equipment, tools, woodworking tools. I said, sell everything. This is the lifestyle. And we haven't looked back since. It was a great choice. She had a full thought, and you know, it's been a great deal for us.
Yeah.
She had a what? Sorry.
It was a great deal. I mean, she had the insight of going full time so much earlier than we anticipated. She threw that out there, and like I said, at first I was no, but we've never looked back. It's a great idea.
Kicking and screaming, you said.
I
won't do it. Oh, that's funny.
But and we were stationary in the campground, so we were full time but stationary
for that first year and a half or so.
It was we started January, and then I think it was October or November was our first trip that we took with the camper, and after selling everything, becoming full time. And I remember it was really crazy. We're pulling out, and we're kind of like all nervous, like crap. Everything we own is in that camper behind us, and it was kind of nerve-wracking. And I mean, he's hauled all kinds of things for years. It's not a big deal to haul a big camper, but we were nervous. And then it was like this mind shift a little further down the road. We were like, wait a minute, this is so cool. Everything we own is behind us, so we can go anywhere and we won't forget anything. We have everything with us. So it was really interesting, that mind shift, just starting out, and then just a few more miles down the road was like, no, wait a minute, this is pretty cool. So.
Even to expand upon that, I was actually at the time had an 8 to 5 office job, and I think 2 or 3 days before we left for that trip, we were going up to Asheville, North Carolina. And as I was at work one day, I started making notes of things I needed to take, and then all of a sudden it dawned on me, wait up, everything we own, we don't have to pack anything up. Everything we own is inside this camper. Yeah. We don't have to pack up anything. And then I kind of come up with a little slogan saying, we may be living tiny, but we got the world's largest suitcase. Because everything we have is inside this suitcase.
That's right.
45.
Nobody else said it. That's pretty good. And the world's largest suitcase. Oh, I like that. So you said you have a long career in the GM, right? And you said you had tons of tools when you guys were living in Texas, tons of tools, wood shop stuff. I mean, for me, I like to do all that stuff. So what was that like? One, what was it like getting rid of it? And two, then how did you guys do so?
Great
so
question.
I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of to expand, like Renee said, I grew up in Colorado. I went to a 4-year automotive college out there and went to work right after graduation with General Motors and spent 33 years with them. But over those years, we've been relocated to many different states, had a lot of woodworking and car tools, etc. And I thought I would never get rid of those tools. They're kind of my passion, my hobby. But once, like I said, we found those friends and the RV park, I found at least it was satisfying for me to help others within that park working on their RVs. And I didn't need a big tool chest, a roller, upper drawers and lower drawers. I just needed a few essential tools to work on the RVs. So I just got probably a small little toolbox in the back. And I enjoyed just going around the campground. If somebody needed something fixed, whether it's a awning that was stuck out on an RV or leaky faucets or a line or whatever it may be, I enjoyed doing that. And that's really when I started working with some folks in that campground, that's when my mindset kind of changed and said, you know what, I don't need all those tools and equipment. I enjoy this community out there, helping them out and enjoying sitting around the campfire and just have those great conversations. So, and then she took it to the next level when we decided to sell everything. I mean, she spent a lot of time. It was time consuming, and you could talk about that.
Initially I used a marketplace, and then a lot of people in the community where we lived in Texas kind of spread the word. So people would come to buy one thing and just kind of wander through the house and buy other things. We donated a lot of stuff. Some of the kids' stuff, I was kind of like, I've kept it this long. I'm not going to get rid of it. So we put it at the family farm in Michigan. But for the majority, we sold and donated. And it took a while. Like most of the big stuff was sold by the time the house, we closed on the house. And then we did have a moving truck move the rest of the stuff to Georgia. And I think we had a 10 by 20 and a 9 by 9 storage units. And then I just every week would load up the car, take the stuff back to our campsite and just continue to sell it, donate it, give it away. So that took us from I got there in March to June, I think is when we finally got rid of the storage units of the last, bit of stuff. So, and there was some family heirloom items like furniture and stuff like that we did rent a small U-Haul and put at the family farm in Michigan. So, but yeah, it was a process. But, and another thing too, though, we realized was, living in that RV, at first being moved to Georgia, we were like, oh, okay. But then we started exploring North Georgia and we got into hiking part of the AT trail. We got into kayaking, biking. Yeah, we did a lot of hiking. And there's like hundreds of waterfalls that you can hike to. And so that's, instead of cleaning the house and mowing the lawn every weekend, we were hiking. And
we always said based off of that is it's better to see stuff and do stuff than have all that stuff accumulation at your house, a garage full of tools and equipment and furniture. So that's why we really enjoy this type of lifestyle.
But he did have a garage full of tools. It was a 3-car garage. And then somebody would say, oh, I'll take your air compressor. He'd call me and be like, sorry, it's already gone and sold it. So stuff is selling fast.
It is kind of funny how you just become attached to things, right? I mean, I have basically every hobby you can think of that's outdoors. And I'm into it, right? I got dirt bikes. I got 2 dirt bikes and an extra motorcycle because I need 3 of them. And then I have, camo gear. I have everything camo. To go hunting for anything, I basically got it. Fishing as well. I have fly fishing gear. I don't have any major fishing gear as in big deep sea or even deep lake fishing for bigger fish species, right? Yeah. But I don't need all that. I just get a charter and get a guide for something like that. But that being said, I still have a lot of shit. And it's hard to get rid of that stuff. And then, tools wise as well, because they're expensive. So if you were to replace them, that's a lot, right? I mean, when I bought literally, I walked in and bought $4,500 worth of tools one day or something like that because, one, I had the money. I was running my own 1099, so everything was going to be a write-off anyway. I had to, save some money on taxes, flip the bird to Uncle Sam because that's my money. You know? But anyway, yeah. So it's like I could imagine the process and the accumulation of stuff. But when you said, you had ended up having your world's largest suitcase behind you, what was like that feeling when you were like, everything's kind of dispersed, no more storage unit, it's all right behind me, besides a few things that you sent to the family farm because that's, where everybody is and everybody cares about said stuff. What did that feel like for you guys?
It was just freeing, it was just kind of, and then COVID hit, soon after. So then it was kind of like he had an 8 to 5 office job. We were living full time in a RV, but he had an office job. And then when COVID hit, he started working from home. So I was like, let's hit the road. Your house has wheels. We could be in California and you're still working from home. So that's what we did. I made a big mistake, though. The first trip we went up into the Smoky Mountains and campground said Wi-Fi service available. And he's like on the porch next to their office, not able to connect for his Zoom call. So we had to get in his truck and, drive as fast as he could to the closest town. And I'm like, sorry. So we had to get a booster and, and kind of monitor that a little more closely when we chose campgrounds. But it was great. And then COVID was great for us. We hit the road and started traveling and camping in different places, and we loved it. So
here you are 6 years later.
Yep.
No end in sight? No end in sight?
No, really. I mean, I even say, if something happens, because I don't drive the vehicle. I know some girls do, and that's just amazing. To them. And I've hauled a horse trailer with 3 horses and a trailer with, we used to do motorcycling and 4-wheeling. I'd haul that. He'd haul the camper. But this is a little bit, 45 foot. So if it was 30, 35, maybe, but 45, no. So I always say if something happens, we downsize so I could drive or help drive, but we'll keep going as long as we can. We love it. And there's still so many places we haven't been yet.
Mm-hmm.
So
have you crossed off most of the states?
No, we've kind of got like the West Coast and the East Coast.
Done or
left to do.
Mainly everything that we have touched as far as states, everything south, all the way from California to Florida, and then kind of up that central area from Florida up to Michigan. So it's mainly what we have left is Northeast and Northwest.
Yeah.
To cover.
Midwest?
Yeah,
more Midwest, like the Plains states. Have you hit them?
Well, we have in another camper, but we haven't on this camper. So as you see on some of those RVs, everybody has their little RV map. And if you drive through, and that's always a debate that we have, is we want to try to fill in that 50 states. But we always, in our previous life with our first camper, we've been to South Dakota, Colorado, Wyoming, a lot of those, Kansas. But now since we got a new RV, we got to start all over with that new map.
Yeah. It doesn't count now.
Right.
Plus you just can't drive through a state. You just can't drive through. You got to stop, spend the night, and do something fun and exciting.
At least one night, at least, right? I mean, people. I come from a flatlander state, Nebraska, right? You were adjacent to Nebraska. You know what it's like, the eastern Colorado, sandhills, that rolls into Nebraska, same stuff. But there's a lot of cool little gems in there that people don't think about. They're like, oh, it's just a flat state. I hate driving through Nebraska. Me too. I hate that. I-80 sucks. I would completely agree to that. I've driven it more than people ever should. But if you get off of I-80, go north, sometimes south too. Swanson Reservoir and down by Trenton is a really cool reservoir. You can park on it. You can camp on the sand as well there. But Lake McConney is another one. A lot of cool spots in even South Dakota as well. South Dakota is obviously gorgeous with the Black Hills, especially on the western side of the state. I don't really know much, can't speak for much for the central side of South Dakota and even North Dakota. I mean, long prairie stuff. Yeah. But wind is obviously a problem in those states as well.
We spent a lot of time up in the Black Hills, Custer, Rapid City, beautiful area.
Camping.
Yeah. Did you have a bike, you said? Motorcycle?
Used to. I grew up being in Colorado. That was kind of my hobby growing up. We had motorcycles,
And you raced.
And raced. And
Ooh.
some hill climbs out there from time to time. Indoor track at the state fairgrounds was a concrete surface where they would put Coca-Cola down, syrup, to make a little tackier surface so you could keep yourself busy during the winter months. So that was kind of
What were you racing?
You could, any type of motorcycle at that time. You could have flat track bikes, just ordinary, and put some street tires on it would help out. But
Flat track is like a dream of mine. I would love to do that. I don't know why. Something about just going around in a circle and just rapping out a motorcycle. Just whoa, 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 whoa. It's very simple-minded racing, but damn, it looks fun. When they got the side kicked and they're like riding this way. I mean, those guys look nuts. I mean, I can't imagine how many blown out legs and hip joints and knee joints.
But now all we have is a side-by-side little Kawasaki Terry X 4-seater that we could fit in the back of our toy hauler as well. So that's kind of nice.
When the kids were little, they had the tiny little motorcycles.
Started them off when they were 5 years old. Both our daughter and son, they'd start off in one of those PW50 Yamahas and slowly moved them up.
We had 4-wheelers. And then we were living in Texas, so we'd go up to Oklahoma or Mena and ride, because you could ride the old logging trails for days. And so I hauled the trailer with all the motorcycles and 4-wheelers, and then he'd haul the camper. And we did that a lot on weekends every month.
You guys ever make it to the Little Sahara down there in Oklahoma?
No. Our friends talked quite a bit about that, but we never did make it over there.
Yeah.
Johnny Perkins would always go over there.
The sand dunes freak me out. You never know what's on the other side of it. I mean, I rolled my 4-wheeler in high school, and I still, the scar still bothers me. I mean, I messed myself up pretty good. Snapped my collarbone, snapped it like over itself. Not just a crack. It literally looked like this in the X-ray, and it was rolled over. Still having issues. I got 8 screws in a plate in this thing. I got 2.5-inch screws in here because I snapped that part of my elbow. Whatever, but I'm still kicking. I'm still riding. But cool, guys. So you guys have been, you've done a lot of camping beforehand. You said you had a little travel trailer and a pop-up before that. So that kind of gives us the background of you guys. You guys know what you're doing when it comes to RVing, whether it's full-timing or not full-timing. So y'all are the experts. Y'all are the RV voice. I'm not. I'm just the guy who facilitates it all. So that being said, let's talk about how to save fuel this RV season. I would love for everybody to kind of be able to pull tips from this, not just full-timers. So what's some easy tips to keep you rolling without breaking the bank? So what are some things, talking points for this? So drive smart, save big. Is there anything like a sweet spot? So you have a 45-foot trailer. So we're talking to toy haulers. There are people that don't full-time that have toy haulers like this. I've sold several of them. Is there like a sweet spot for like speed to fuel efficiency for you guys? Or like
question. Absolutely. And so keep in mind, ours is a 5th-wheel trailer. It's 45 feet. And then we have a 1-ton Chevrolet diesel Duramax. So it adds, when you put it together, about 60 feet total. Trailer weighs about 19,000 pounds. Going down the highway roughly 9.5 miles per gallon. And that's when you talk about the sweet spot. He's laughing, 9.5 miles per gallon. gallon. Just actually, it was kind of interesting. We just finished 6 months on the road, and we put on about 15,000 miles. So that kind of gives you how many gallons of fuel we consumed over the last 6 months. So
6 months, 15,000 miles.
Yeah, we left Michigan September 24th, and we just got back yesterday. We left here, headed to Albuquerque for Balloon Fiesta, then up to Colorado, back down to Albuquerque, over to Phoenix, and then slowly made our way to Florida for 3 months, and then here. But back to fuel.
Yeah, back to
fuel. Yeah, a lot.
And I have experimented. It's kind of tough because of obviously terrain and hills and wind, but the sweet spot for us is anywhere between 62 to 65 miles per hour. I can actually get up to closer to about 11 and a half miles per gallon. Once I hit that 70, if I do 70, which like to stay away from it or above, that's when it gets down to about that 9.5 miles per gallon. So when you think about that, geez, that could, if you're, when we have, and speaking of savings, and we'll get into that, we also, what saves us a lot of money is we have a auxiliary fuel tank in the back of our truck, extra 60 gallons. So, and when you use obviously smart driving habits, going 60 or 65 versus 70, you have a auxiliary fuel tank that you could put in additional, in our situation, is 60 gallons. And then I think the third key element when we talk about efficiency is we have a fuel card, Open Roads.
Yeah.
Open Roads, if you're familiar with it.
I am not. I have heard it before, and there's other apps we'll talk about when we get to it. But yeah, Open Roads. What is Open Roads?
Open Roads is a fuel discount card, such as I don't know, use the word truckers, semis. You see them stopping at the TAs, the Loves. They're using a dedicated pump kind of behind the building, which is neat from two perspectives. They have a larger diameter hose or a handle when you're filling up, so you don't have to wait as long filling up those auxiliary fuel tanks. So it's saving you time. But if you sign up for Open Roads, as a example, the last time I stopped, we stopped and the pump price showed $3.15 on the pump and on the signs. But by using Open Roads, the price for us was $2.87. So that's almost that's 28 cents a gallon savings.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, and you could drive, you get a total of 80 miles or so with the combination, or 80 gallons, I should say, with the combination of the auxiliary fuel tank and what's in the truck, a 30-gallon tank. We can drive an extra 160 miles, and with that 28 cents savings for a fill up, I mean, that could save us about $40. But each time we fill up, it's saving us about $40. And when you think about going cross country, just like we did, 15,000 miles, I mean, that's close to $400 that it saved us just in that 15,000 miles. So Open Roads, I'm a true believer in it. Driving within your means, 60, 65. Also, maintenance is huge when you talk about fuel economy. I think I'm a firm believer in making sure that your tires are properly inflated. I don't know if, I mean, you're familiar with motorcycles, and if you have less air in your tires on a hard pavement, there's more rolling resistance. If you have the proper tire pressure on it, you have less rolling resistance, you can increase your fuel economy. If you change your air filter, that increases the performance of your engine, and that also increases fuel economy. So there's several items that you could look at. It's not just driving habits, it's using Open Roads, driving smart.
And watching your weight. I mean, the weight, you can add up really quick, filling up the camper with clothes and shoes and all kinds of things. So that's a factor also. And
that's a good point. The weight of the trailer is, we do have obviously a freshwater tank, holds 80, 90 gallons, somewhere around that. We rarely, I only remember one time that we traveled with it completely full. And that was this past fall when we went to the Albuquerque Balloon Festival, and it's dry camping. So we wanted to have all that water on board to get us through that entire week. Other than that, it's 1/3 or less to keep the weight down, because that affects fuel economy. Making sure that your gray tanks, your black tanks when you're driving are empty is going to also help fuel economy. So there's several factors involved that could help you out if you just think about it.
And this is wonderful. This is coming from a guy that's worked at GM for 33 years.
One and only.
Yeah, 33 years. That's incredible.
Yeah. One and only job out of college. So it's impressive.
Yeah. So we talked about, you got fuel efficiency, 5 to 10 miles an hour can make a huge difference. You're talking about, saving fuel. You're talking about 9 to 11 miles a gallon ish. And if you bump it up 5 to 10 mile an hour, it's not safe when you're driving something like that. Wind can make it shuffle. You're just asking for danger when you're traveling fast with an RV behind you. So yes, do you guys use cruise control or no?
I do in certain situations, highway where it's clear. I put cruise control on it. Obviously, I don't use
Nebraska
cruise control
flat.
like yesterday.
West
A
Texas.
lot of wind, a lot of rain, slippery surfaces. I do not use cruise control.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good tip right there. I'm gonna write that down. If you guys see me going over here, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just writing down stuff. Sometimes I feel like I'm being judged. I'm like, oh, no, I'm not. I swear, I'm just writing stuff down.
And I'll say too, having that ox tank, when even if we're just disconnected, we're at a campground and we're not hauling the camper, and we come upon a great fuel price, we'll fill up the truck and the auxiliary tank. Plus when we're hauling with the 45-foot camper, we can't just pull in anywhere. So it's come in handy having that extra fuel just to get a little further till we could find a truck stop or something that can accommodate our camper to fill up.
Could be a little bit more selective. Yep.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, that and just time in general, right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing, do you have to, so like an auxiliary tank, I grew up in the, farmlands in Nebraska. A lot of guys had auxiliary tanks, whether it be for tractors or their actual truck themselves. Do you have a pump that's already connected, or you have to pump into your gas tank?
No, it's actually a gravity feed
It is.
the
Okay.
main tank. Yes.
Yeah.
So it has a little on-off shut-off valve that you could open up and drain it down as you're driving, going down the road. So
Yeah.
self-reflection, the original.
But
tank.
you have to be careful because the first time we used it, we were heading to Oklahoma to camp, and he turned that on to feed, and all of a sudden the computer just went empty, and it was like the computer was like, well, I've gone 300 miles, it should be empty, and so it just set it to empty, and then we had to go take the truck and have the computer reset. So to get around that, you have to
and that's absolutely right. I mean, the truck is smarter than us.
right.
So we just had to go in, and usually what I do is run it down to about half a tank. And then when we stop to use the restrooms or get something to drink out of the camper, then that's when I turn it on and slowly allow it to kind of dribble or leak in or fill up the main tank. So.
Yeah, confusing the computer.
Yeah, the computer's like, what?
Wait up, you just drove 300 miles and
I
you
should
still
be
have a full tank of gas. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
And you didn't even open the gas tank. I am so confused.
A lid. No.
Yeah. I was just thinking, we talk motorcycles. I'm like, that's one hell of a reserve. When you need to flip it from on to reserve just to get that little extra mile to get somewhere. Well, yours is 3 times the size of your regular tank.
Yeah. Well, and when we pulled into, I think it was a Buc-ee's on the way to Albuquerque, we filled the truck tank, the truck auxiliary tank, the generator tank, and the four-wheeling tank. All 4 tanks we filled in one stop so that we had enough fuel to run the generator because we'd be dry camping for a week and a half. So that was a hefty gas station bill.
They liked
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So your toy hauler has an extra tank too, right?
Yeah. So I believe it's 20 or 30 gallons for the generator.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has a onboard filling station. So if you're out riding in the
and it's got
the desert, it has a hand pump there where you can fill up your motorcycles as well. Another 30 gallons, 30 or 40 gallons.
Yeah, that's perfect. So you guys mentioned tire pressure, which is a big one. Do you guys have TPMS? I'm guessing you have it on the truck more than likely, but what about on the trailer itself?
We have it on both. We have the Lipid Tire Linc, tire pressure and temperature sensors on all the wheels, both on the trucks and the trailers. So there's 6 wheels on the trailer, and there's 6 wheels. So we have 12 of them monitored continuously.
Yeah, on the dash at all times. The trip when he got transferred to Atlanta, he was hauling the camper and I was driving his company vehicle behind. And that's when we were moving out there for him to stay in. All of a sudden I noticed it looked like, I thought, oh, he's kicking up dirt. And then I'm like, wait, that's not dirt, it's smoke. And so I'm frantically trying to call him, like, pull over. And had I not been behind him, the tire would have caught on fire. The whole brake assembly had fallen apart. So after that, then we got the Tire Linc system, because otherwise you don't know what's going on back there until sometimes it's too late.
Yeah, sorry, you were cutting out there just a touch. You said the tire was smoking?
Smoking. Yeah. At first I thought he was kicking up dirt, and then I realized it was smoke. And so when we pulled over, it was the whole tire assembly had fallen apart. So it would have caught on fire if, I hadn't caught that. So after that, then we chose to purchase the Tire Linc system.
Awesome.
Know what's going on back there.
And we had a blowout, I think it was in Arizona 3 or 4 months ago. And it is so nice because soon as it detected the tire dropping in pressure, it sent a little notification to my phone, which I have it displayed up on my dash saying low tire pressure. We were able to pull over immediately to the side versus continuing driving down the road. Because as you know, sometimes driving too far on a flat tire, eventually that tire starts coming apart, and then you have significant damage to your side of your trailer, resulting in additional unnecessary costs. So I truly believe in some sort of tire pressure monitor system along with temperature sensor monitoring system, such as the Lipid Tire Linc. So,
and I hate
does both.
Does pressure and temperature.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I hate to say, when we had our Outback bumper pull, I swear every trip we would pull out, he'd be in front of me with the camper, I'd be behind him with the motorcycles, four-wheelers, and I'd be frantically calling him because I could see the rubber start wobbling, and I knew, I'm like, we're blowing a tire, and here we are on the side of the road having to replace a tire. So you got to watch too, like living in the South, they dry rot so fast that
it's dry and it's just so hot. Rubber doesn't do well in the sunshine.
They just fall apart.
That's something else that I would throw out there, whether that's pertinent to your question on tire pressure, but I highly recommend those individuals out there with RVs or any type of trailers, keep an eye on your tire date as far as manufacture date. It's on the side of your tires. You could look at that. They usually recommend replacing your tire somewhere after 5 years, whether it needs it or not, because it can self-deteriorate, self-destruct, and cause some additional tires. So we actually replaced all 7 tires, including the spare, which was never used. We elected, just because of safety and kind of a piece of mindset, to just replace all tires last year before we left on our long trip. So
perfect. That's a great little piece of information there. We've covered quite a bit. You talked about maintenance, talked about actual, I guess, how you drive, about where you were miles per hour. And then you talked about weight as well. You guys sound like you're pretty minimalistic. So that, plays into your traveling. But for everybody else listening out there, your trailer can only hold so much safely, right? You need to know what that is. You need to know how much you're putting on. And not only that, loading it properly so it doesn't sway weird. There's several videos out there on that. There's a half-ton towability video that I did with Josh and JD from Big RV, and Josh, the RV nerd. They can walk you through all that stuff. It's very, very informative. They know a lot more than I just ask the questions. But you guys, again, 33 years with GM, and then all your background with RVing in general, you guys are knowledgeable about this as well. So thank you so much for giving us some of that. So what about here's a weird question, actually. What gear do most RVers bring that might be unnecessary for a weekend trip? It's about weight. We're in that weight section. We'll be moving on to something else after this.
What gear for a weekend trip?
Yeah, I think if it's for a weekend trip, what do you think is unnecessary?
I've seen people bring their own full-size grill in the back of the truck or the camper, where you can have, a more smaller, lightweight one. And sometimes it's just, clothes add up and you pack way more than you think you need. Even food, it's interesting how all of that adds up so quickly. But
it even comes down as simple as dishes and plates. Everybody likes to have nice looking dishes and plates, silverware. When you add up, and it's simple, but it's the little things that make a big difference. If you take 4 or 8 plates and then 4 or 8 cups and then all the silverware versus maybe paper plates, And then there's a kind
Or
of
the plastic.
Or the plastic.
Yeah.
It saves a lot. And I think
Yeah.
it's the little things that you could do there. Clothing, be minimal as far as clothing and shoes.
And just extra appliances too. Like some people like, margarita machine, ice machine. I mean, hey, if we want to party, I'll be there. It's awesome. But it does all add up. So you just really got to be mindful of, if you're loading bikes, it's a toy hauler and you're loading 4-wheelers and motorcycles, but then you've got your clothing and your gear and, you just we used to haul kayaks and then we switched to an inflatable. And so it's just, you just got to be really, books, a lot of books in a camper. It all adds up. And when we kind of take it all out sometimes to then clean and try to declutter, you're carrying stuff out like, dang, this is heavy, and you don't realize how much you have.
Even
fishing gear,
yeah.
Fishing gear. Like we've hauled fishing gear, and then finally we were like, we're not even using this. Why don't we just leave it at the farm? And so that's another thing too. You kind of got to look if you're even a weekender and you've got storage, so you keep stuff in there. But then you got to assess, okay, we've had the camper a year or two. Have we used this? Where it's, weight in the camper that we don't need. So it's always good to kind of go through the whole camper and assess, have we used this or not? Let's get rid of it. extra pots and pans, extra bowls. It all adds up quickly.
Yeah. And one I was thinking, just the one that popped off my mind, probably like one of the most important things, especially if you're going to RV parks versus like boondocking, water. You don't need to bring water. You can fill up. Typically, there's a fill station at all RV parks, state parks, whatever it may be. If there's RV and hookups, there's probably fresh water systems there. You don't need to be weighing that down with that. That last little mile to your campsite or half mile to your campsite, you're going to be fine, even if you go overweight. But you don't need to be taking all that with you. So that's something that I thought of. I'm not an RVer, but I'm kind of
a good one.
Context clues. I'm not dumb.
A case or two of bottled water that adds up. Where you could just have a Brita filter and filter it at the campground and use your water bottle and
absolutely. So, what about planning your trip, avoiding detours, whatever it may be? How long? How does it go? How does good trip planning reduce gas mileage or gas usage? Reduce gas usage, not mileage. And what do you guys use? Any apps? You did say Open Roads. Do you use any other apps for like RV Life, Road Trippers, Google Maps, any stuff like that? So walk us through some of those. Yes. All right, cool.
Usually I go to Google Maps and I'll put in like RV parks near, wherever we're going. So I'll kind of start there. Then RV Life, we love that. It will redirect us automatically for low bridges. So, and we actually saw a sign for low bridge, and then RV Life, redirected us as we had a near catastrophe years ago when we missed an exit, and then we're looking at the sign and it was 13.7, and we both kind of went, held our breath and waiting to hear ACs rip off. But we made it at the time. I think it was like half inch.
About a half inch, 3/4 of an inch at the max.
It just kissed it.
Yeah. Oh, man. So that's important. If you got to know the height from the top of your AC down, and watch the bridge signs. So, and you can put that into RV Life and it'll automatically redirect you. I like when we get to a location, TripAdvisor, we like to eat out once in a while. I'll go to it to make sure I don't miss any cool spots or attractions or things to do. Then we are members of Harvest Host. So that's a good one where, you don't want to stay at a campground, but you're kind of in a open area. We've had some really cool experiences at like wineries and breweries with Harvest Host. And then there's Campendium and Boondockers. Or boondocking. I like those because it helps us find boondocking spots or like inexpensive, like local regional parks or small parks versus the more expensive, fancier ones. Mm-hmm. So we used Campendium a lot when we were out west finding boondocking spots. We did a lot of boondocking, and that was really fun. So, and then RV dump sometimes too. If we've been boondocking, I can go to RV dump app and it'll tell us where.
I've never heard of RV dump. I mean, I can kind of imagine what it is, but
it's an older one, but it'll tell me like truck stops or RV parks where you can, dump your tanks. Because if you're out there dry camping, boondocking for a while, you're going to have to dump your tanks. So those are helpful.
Yeah. That's actually a really good one. I've never heard of that one. So that could be used for anybody, a long road trip, a weekend or trip, depending on what you're doing.
Right. Exactly.
I think that's a really good one. I like that. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So what about, I'm guessing you said you use RV Life. I have a full episode on RV Life Pro with Patrick Callahan, something. Patrick, he's one of the top guys that knows everything about that. So RV Life, you can watch that on my YouTube right here. Yes, there.
Right there.
But if you're listening to this, you already know what my YouTube is, so you can find it. That being said, you guys do the 6 months doing like just to stay in the Michigan area, but you do 6 months traveling as well. So question on this one, this is kind of a fun one. How do you balance like scenic routes, but also fuel efficient ones? Do you guys, if you want to do a scenic route, you just go for it anyway, don't really care about the gas, or?
Pretty much, I'd say.
Yeah, I've never thought about that. Was if there's two different routes, I think the ones that we always look at are the shortest ones.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more hilly or terrain when we're going to Carlsbad Caverns. I think we went straight through the mountains versus maybe around the southern tip of it to get there. But I haven't put too much thought in that in the past. No.
Or like if it's a scenic route, we'll park the camper and then do a day trip with just the truck. We'll maybe do that. But no, we kind of just have never looked at it that way. It's either what's the shortest, quickest route, or if there's a route with cool spots to stop and see, well, then, we'll do that, even though it's a little longer. So it just,
if you see the juice is worth the squeeze, you're going to squeeze it, what you're saying.
No.
Well, cool. Well, it's just a good question. It's like, I go through these and I was like, well, that's not a bad question. Because some people might, depending on where you are too, some roads, out here in Idaho, it's hard to like not find a scenic route. It's like, I-84 from here to there, it's not super scenic. It's mostly just desert. But if you get off of that, it's pretty nice. And you can travel a little slower. Like you guys, how about this? This would be a good question. How about interstate travel? Do you guys avoid interstate travel, or do you guys go back highways? Or try, a little mix of that.
For me, I feel comfort when I use the RV Life, and I'm one that just will follow their direction that they provide. Usually they take in consideration whether it's Google Maps or anything, traffic, if there's a long traffic delay or anything like that. So I usually just put my
trip into
RV Life, and if it says go this direction, I'm a good follower.
Yeah, because then we know, we're not going to run into any low bridges. But then we do have where all of a sudden we're on the highway and it shows like 50-minute delay. So then I'm like, okay, on the Google map off to the side, and I'm like, okay, get off the next exit, and then we're back roading it to go all around the traffic and get back on ahead. Or we see it coming, and we've done that. We've gotten real lucky a couple of times where we see it coming, we get off, and we're able to get on the highway. And we get on the highway, and there's nobody behind us because they're all still behind the backup, whatever it was, accident, what have you. But
we don't necessarily have a preference one way or another.
Yeah. We're kind of ones where, we kind of have a plan of where we want to go, but we kind of wing it a lot too sometimes. And we're like, we'll just pull into, Cabela's, or we'll just find something. Or no, I mean, during COVID, that was almost near impossible because everything was so booked and everybody was camping and RVing. But it's gotten better now again too, where so we just, you know, kind of have a route in mind, but sometimes we divert.
And some of those diversions, that unexpected detours that we encounter, whether it's a traffic backup on the highway or maybe it's a mechanical failure. A couple of years ago, we had a leaf spring that broke on our RV as we were going down the road. And we were trying to reach a certain destination, but it happened. We were fortunate to find a local tractor supply store to get a temporary leaf spring back in place to help us get down to the road on the road. But while we were there, when we broke down, we came across we didn't realize that we were kind of in Jack Daniel's backyard, bourbon country.
Yeah.
So so we didn't even have that on our radar. We didn't even think about it. But sometimes those unexpected delays, if you just kind of look out, and she does an excellent job getting on her phone, finding out what attractions are in this area. We made the best of it. We visited Jack Daniel's, Jim Beam. There was also the Arboretum.
And wood giants. And it was cool.
We just make the best of it.
Yeah.
So sometimes those detours come up. Take advantage of it. Look what's in that area, in your surroundings. You talked about Nebraska. Google, find out what's in that area. There's a lot to offer in each and every one of the states. You just have to do some research ahead of time.
Lean into the detour.
There you go.
That's right.
Jump in with both feet.
Yeah. Baptism by fire. Yeah. That's awesome. So, okay. Well, you did talk about one, you said Open Roads was one of the apps that you use. You use other apps. You said RV Life. You use Google Maps and then TripAdvisor and a couple other ones for that. But what about filling up smarter? Do you guys use GasBuddy? You said Open Roads. That's one of them. Or have you heard of Upside, or do you use Upside? Uh-oh, I'm losing connection. No!
Hello?
Wait a minute. We're going to see if you come back.
It's windy here, so hopefully
Is it working?
Yeah, we're kind of skipping. Just give it a second. You'll come back.
Oh, you know what? Let's turn off our phones. Make sure.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Let's see.
Well, I can hear you. That's good.
Make sure our phones
There
are.
you go. Come back around.
Let me turn that off. You asked about Upside and GasBuddy. And when we are just disconnected from the camper and we're driving around, touring around at a destination, we've used Upside a little bit, and but I use GasBuddy a lot to just put in quick what's the least expensive in a nearby area. So we do that, and then we do occasionally use Upside also for the discount.
Perfect. I need to start using it. I'm being dumb about it. I don't know why. Because
it even includes fast food. It's not only fuel, but it's fast food and a couple other things too. So it can add up quickly.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very interesting. I guess, guys, this has been awesome. It's been very informative on my side of things. You guys, there's good ideas in there because I don't know everything, right? I'm just not the person for that. Eventually, I will.
Learning as we
go. You know more than most. Being on the road for 6 years and then doing stuff before that as well. So, and then the GM background. So that's awesome. Question for you guys on travel days. Do you guys travel early or late in the day to avoid traffic, or do you guys? It is what it is.
I just did a post on this actually. It was
Really?
like a camper pulling in the middle of the night, and I'm like, is this you? And I said we were. But so now that we're retired and we're full timers, we prefer to leave about 8, 9 in the morning, pull in the afternoon, set up before dark. But when we were weekenders, you don't have a choice a lot of times. Maybe we get off at noon, but we lived in Texas, so it would take hours to get through traffic of Dallas, Fort Worth, just to then get another 1 or 2 hours to your destination. So most every time when we were weekenders, we were pulling in the dark. And so, you know, that just kind of depends on your situation and whether or not you can leave early, or, you know, your circumstance, you have to work and you just want to go camping for the weekend. You're going to leave late and pull in the dark. So,
but we prefer leaving. I'm an early bird. I like waking up early in the morning. We like to get up, have a quick breakfast, pack everything up. She puts everything away on the inside. I'm on the outside, getting everything ready. So we pack up, I would say probably within 45 minutes, hour at the tops.
Yeah, pretty quick.
And have everything ready to go and get on the road. So it's nice to get to your destination, because there's been a couple of times, I think maybe 2 or 3 times, we arrived late at night to a campground that we haven't been to in the past, and a lot of low-lying branches that sometimes come into play, especially when you're talking to our campers 13.6, 13.7, that may interfere. So we prefer to get there early where we could get out. She gets on her little cell phone. She calls me in the truck, whether it's a pull through or a back in, just to make sure that the clearance on the top, the sides, that we're clear of all objects. So she does a good job in doing that.
Some campgrounds have markers like posts down on the ground, so you got to watch for those, because with the longer campers, you have that swing in the back. But, you know, again, with the pop-up and the bumper pole, they're not as high, so there's a little less worry there with trees than with a fifth wheel. So, yeah, I mean, now, we like arriving early, leaving early. But years ago, we didn't have a choice, really. You know, if we wanted to go camping for the weekend, we had to leave after work or noon or so.
Perfect. On the tree branches and stuff like that, do you guys carry snippers or a little chainsaw or anything?
That's another post I did that went viral.
He's been following. He's been watching our videos.
He's on the roof, you know, sawing this branch, and I said, you know, do you carry a chainsaw or handsaw? People were like, you're going to go to jail. You can't do that at state park. But we were at our friend's property, and that's where we were cutting the tree. So I don't recommend it at state parks or national parks, but, you know, I mean, we do, because sometimes we'll walk trails and woods and gather wood for a bonfire, and so we want to cut it up or break it up.
But you also got to pay attention, because some parks allow that, some parks do not. So the best thing to do is ask before cutting. Right.
And some parks you may have to ask, can I cut this branch so it doesn't rip off my air conditioner? And it's handy to have one on board. So.
But yes,
and sometimes it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Right.
Oh, goodness. Well, guys, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for everything. I did send you a quick message so you guys can open that. But everybody out there listening, so we talked about driving smart, saving big. You know, there's about a 5 to 10-ish mile an hour you want to stay in. Check cruise control, maybe, but not when it's wet and slippery and stuff like that. TPMS systems, know your tire temperature, know your tire pressure, because those things can save your life and save your trip, actually save your RV's life too. A couple other things, regular maintenance, air filters and oil changes are a big one too. Keep your engine running smooth and all that. And then added weight, take things out that you don't need. You don't need water all the time. You can get that at most of the campsites. 95% of people don't do boondocking. So that being said, you can fill up there. You don't need to carry that down the road with you. And then plastic plates or water or paper plates, not full on nice dishes. You don't need to go to the antique store and bring your nice china, stuff like that. Open roads, GasBuddy for an upside for other saving stuff, but other RV apps, RV Life, Google Maps. You said TripAdvisor, Campendium, Boondockers, and RV Dump. First time I've heard that one. So that is awesome. But this is not the cue, but do you guys have anything else that you'd like to say or talk about before we close out?
No, we just want to say thank you for having us on here and sharing our story. And, you know, people can catch us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, sharing our travels and Kelly's repair recommendations, maintenance recommendations. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And if anybody has any questions or comments on any of the topics that we talked about and would like to continue that conversation and get more into it, feel free to look us up on one of those handles right there. He's pointing to it. send us
I'll
a
put
message.
it in the description.
We'll be more than happy to follow up. So we enjoy doing that. We love helping out each other, and that's what we like about the RV community is we're all in it together. Everyone's willing to help out. So
thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And if you don't have someone like Kelly in your back pocket and knows what to do on RVs, you can talk to RV Fix. RV Fix. They also have a code too. Kelly and Renee do, but I have my code as well. So RV Voice is my code, and theirs is 50, right? I'm pretty sure it's just 50.
That's right. Yep.
Perfect. So decide who you want to buy from. I'm not going to say you need to buy from me. So. Awesome, guys. Well, again, thank you so much. And again, guys, I'm not the RV Voice. Kelly and Renee are people like the RV Voice. So, Kelly and Renee, would you please close us out today?
Thank you.
And stay tuned for more from the RV Voice. Thanks, JB.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. All righty.